In this video, we won't be going into the details about whether or not note-taking is effective or not, because there is evidence which shows that it is, and there's also evidence which shows that it is fairly low utility. However, handwritten notes versus digital notes is the real question, which has been disturbing philosophers ever since the dawn of civilization. So let's get to that. What's cooking, sapiens? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Arham and I'm a fourth-year medical student at the University of Oslo in Norway, and this video will be divided into 5 major chunks, and as always, all the timestamps will be in the description box below, so you guys can skip through and watch exactly the parts that you want to watch. Now let's get straight to business. So there are 2 main purposes of taking notes. First of all, taking notes during class or during lectures, which I believe is actually a pretty smart thing to do, because actually we humans have a very short attention span. We are not able to concentrate for more than like 25 to 30 minutes at most. And however, when you are doing something practically while listening to a teacher or a professor, it makes it much more easier to actually stay focused, stay concentrated, because you have practically something to do, right? So you simply don't doze off or stop, or your mind does not start wandering in the middle of the lecture, because you are actually keeping your brain engaged in an activity which is directly connected to the lecture. But at the same time, there's actually a huge caveat to this as well, because oftentimes you will see these students who sit in the lecture and are basically transcribing every single word that the professor is saying. I mean, that is pretty insane. No disrespect, but I don't know why people do this, because when you are doing this is basically a passive process. All you are doing is that you're basically sitting down, listening to the lecture or to the professor, and typing out those notes without actively trying to process that information first, because your fingers are at a certain point, just working by default. That's become an automated process, so not really actively engaging with the information that you are being told, and you actually end up with all these insane amount of notes that you have to go through after the lectures, because you have basically written down everything, including the ums, the e's, and the ahs. Personally, what I find to be the most effective in this very scenario is actually taking notes by hand to help me stay awake during the lecture. And what exactly are the benefits of taking handwritten notes? We will get to that in a moment, but for now, let's talk about the other aspect of taking notes, which is taking notes after your lectures when you are self-studying. Brace yourselves over here, because a lot of people are actually going to be disagreeing on this one, because I believe that taking notes after class is pretty much pointless. And now you must be like, oh, whoa, this is insane, blasphemous content, let's report him on YouTube, let's unsubscribe to his channel. Guys, please calm down and listen to this for a moment. Now, there are tons of online resources available. You have people who have taken their notes and published them on the internet, and you also have your seniors who already have done that work for you. So when you have people who have already done the job for you, then why would you on earth bother to complete or to redo all that stuff just for the sake of your satisfaction? I think this is pretty much insane, because let's say you want to go and buy a car, right? Would you go to just a showroom and buy a car that you like, or would you go to a manufacturer and tell them to manufacture a car from scratch that suits your own needs? Come on, guys, obviously you would go to the showroom and just buy a ready-made car, right? Which you probably do like as well. So this is exactly the analogy that I like to use. When you have people who have done the work for you, why not just go with the flow and use that instead of making every single note on every single topic by yourself and waste time pretty much. But then there is the argument that, okay, when I take my own notes, I am completely familiar with the structure and organization of those notes, and I know my notes in and out, and that really helps. Well, that's a fair objection, but what I like to say to these people is that, well, in that case, you have to look at the price and value proposition, right? The price is the time that you are paying to create these notes, and the value is the learning aspect that you are getting from making these notes. And honestly, the learning aspect is not really that good, according to tons of research as well. In short, I believe this is pretty much pointless in most cases. The main positive aspect of actually taking handwritten notes is simply the fact that it aids memory and it aids retention, because when you are writing stuff with your hands, you are, actively processing the information in a much better way than simply by typing them out, right? Because when you listen to a word or a sentence, let's say, you have to process that in your own words before you can jot it down, because you simply can't transcribe everything that the professor is saying now, right? So you have to really, summarize that and really compress that into much more understandable terms before you, then write it down down in your notes. So I believe, or actually research believes or shows that this is actually a much better way for more retention and more memory aid, I guess. Secondly, the major disadvantage of taking handwritten notes is the very fact that it is extremely time consuming, right? Because firstly, it is time consuming to write your notes as well. Obviously, writing your notes with your hand is going to be taking more time than compared to typing them out. However, secondly, it also takes more time when you have to go back to your notes which you have taken on paper. You have these heaps and huge piles of paper which you have to go through if you want to find, let's say, a certain term, right? Because here you have basically no control plus F option and then search the word, right? If you have to look up a certain term or a definition, then you basically have to find that in those piles of papers, which is actually a huge inconvenience. The one major advantage of taking digital notes is that you can share these notes quite easily, quite conveniently with your fellow students or your friends, right? Because one major chunk of being a medical student, or any other student for that matter, is that you share your knowledge, you share your notes with your fellow students and help each other out, be there for each other, with an open heart, with a big heart. And digital notes just makes the process so much more easy, right? All you have to do is upload your notes to, I don't know, Google Drive, for example, and share the link, and all your friends will basically have access to your notes. And this also actually allows for you guys to divide up certain topics. So I can make notes for a certain topic, and my other friends can make notes for other topics, right? And in this way we can actually also save tons of time, where I don't have to make notes for every single topic. Divide and rule, I guess, if that's allowed to say here. And this also, yeah, as I said, helps you save time. So taking notes on your laptop is actually quite faster as well, also while taking notes. Secondly, also because when you have to search for certain keywords afterwards, when you're going through these notes, you can simply Control F, and basically you will search the keyword, and that just makes the entire process so much more convenient. But on the other hand, there are actually three major disadvantages of taking digital notes. First of all, it's passive, and evidence has shown that it's not really that effective for learning and memory retention. And number two is that there's a huge risk of you actually verbatim copying from textbooks and lectures, right? Because you read a certain sentence, and all you have to do is basically type out the same sentence, and it just makes it's much more natural to do so. So yeah, we might have a tendency to actually do some verbatim copying as well, which is obviously also suboptimal. And the third major disadvantage is that when you are on your laptop, on your PC, internet can be a huge distraction, which can, by the way, be also eliminated by putting off, or by turning off your Wi-Fi. But at the same time, if you need your Wi-Fi, you need your internet connection to be there if you want to study properly, and use Google or other websites for that matter. So yeah, internet distractions can be a huge challenge. When you are like studying and you're just like, okay, let me go to Google or to Facebook and just scroll for like 5 minutes. So yeah, this can be a huge challenge as well, which needs to be tackled when you are taking digital notes. One thing that has worked extremely well for me personally is combining digital and handwritten notes. So what I do is that I make my notes on Notion, where I actually just write down questions, and then I hide the answers, like I screenshot the answers from the PDF or from the lecture PowerPoint and hide that underneath the question using the toggle feature. And if you want to know more about my exact Notion workflow, then the video link will be somewhere over here. And when the exam season arrives, I actually sit down and draw hand-drawn mind maps on my iPad using the app Notability. And in short, I'm actually combining active recall with my digital notes and hand-drawn mind maps for the exam season. So handwritten versus digital notes, what exactly is the right answer over here? Actually, there is no one correct answer. This decision is entirely yours to make. For me personally, first of all, I don't think taking notes is a very good idea, and I stopped making notes in medical school as well. And secondly, if I have to make notes, then I would like to combine digital and handwritten notes, which I have already mentioned, and you can check out my other videos where I explain this in more detail. And that's a wrap for today's Sapiens. I hope you found the video useful, and if you did, then you might want to check out this video, which will surely add some value to your lives. And before you leave, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Take care. Peace.